I think that in many ways our future depends on literacy. I really think it does, because if you read and you read widely, then some things happen to you. Your world expands, your horizon widens. You begin to understand how someone else that doesn't live inside your own skull might think about things.
Welcome to the Habit Podcast, conversations with writers about writing. I'm Jonathan Rogers, your host. I usually ask my podcast guests which writers make them want to write. For me, the short list of writers who make me want to write will always include Leif Enger, my guest for this week's episode. His new book, I Cheerfully Refuse, is about good people living through bad times, a recurring motif in his work. Leif recently came to Nashville for a book event, so we were able to sit down for a rare in-person interview for this week's episode. Leif Enger, so glad to have you on the Habit Podcast again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure.
Not just on my podcast, in my house.
How about that? And you've got bookshelves everywhere. I adore it.
Good. So I'm so excited about I Cheerfully Refuse. I love this book so much. As a matter of fact, after I finished with I Cheerfully Refuse, I went back and listened to Virgil Wonder again.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
It was so fun. It was so fun to see Greenstone make another appearance in I Cheerfully.
Well,
very briefly.
I really love that landscape. I really do.
Yeah.
And part of what you have to do if you're going to write a novel that takes you years is set it in a place that you don't mind being. Because otherwise you're working against yourself.
Well, okay. Well, that brings, because last time we talked, you mentioned that this idea of wanting to, characters you love in a place that you don't mind being.
Yeah.
But of course, this is are you comfortable with the term dystopian to describe this novel?
Well, yeah, I am in a way. I think as long as it's qualified. Most dystopian books are set in motion by something that is beyond people's control. Uh-huh. So a pandemic is a good opening to a dystopian novel,
yeah.
or a nuclear war, or whatever it might be. Take your pick. We have plenty of apocalypses in waiting. But this one is more of the kind of dystopia that it's quite possible we could just walk ourselves into without really paying attention.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't mean it's not dystopian. It is. But it's the kind that didn't require an act of God to get there.
Uh-huh. A decision-topia.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, the reason I brought it up is, you said, you talk about this being a place where you want to be. Lake Superior in a dystopian landscape, does that count as a place you want to be?
Well, nobody wants a dystopian landscape. Yeah. But I guess if, Rainey and Lark, my narrator and his wife, are pretty happy to be where they are, because in the middle part of the country, you're not so closely watched in the world that they inhabit, and so it's a good place to be. It's a good place to live and make a living and grow some vegetables in your garden.
Yeah, when I first heard that this was a dystopian-ish book, I thought that is so odd for Leif Enger to be doing that kind of book. But then when I read it, it still feels like a Leif Enger book.
Well, sure. I mean, I think, look, part of what I was up to is I was coping with the fact that COVID was going wild while I was working on it. Yeah. I started the book the day we went into lockdown.
Really?
It was either March 16th or 7th. It was right around mid-March. And I'd been making notes for a story of this sort for a while. And then when lockdown happened, my wife Robin said, well, you've got the notes. You're never going to have a better opportunity than this to sit down and make a book out of them. So I took her advice and started it then. And it was lovely to approach the work every day as a kind of refuge or lifeline, because the world was incredibly uncertain. There was a disease running around that we didn't understand. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure what was going to work and what wasn't. I remember washing groceries when I got home from the grocery store. I mean, nobody really understood it. do you mask? Do you not mask? I mean, it was a headache.
Yeah.
And it was kind of nice to imagine a world where things had gotten kind of rugged. But then to see how a person might live with a sense of joy despite that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea of good people in bad situations is all your books.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. And in some ways, this dystopian Minnesota didn't feel as different from Virgil Wander's town as I thought it was going to.
Yeah. It isn't that much different. I mean, community is important in both places. Your friends matter, your families matter. It wasn't that much different when I think about it. You know, I mean, because there are places on the north shore of Lake Superior that are very remote, even now. In the world of Virgil Wander, that's no one's dystopia, but it is very rural. It's isolated in some ways, and people are quite reliant on themselves and their friends. Yeah. So in that way, Icebridge is not that much different than Greenstone. You're absolutely right. But actually, I did talk with a woman who said, I didn't know this was set in the future until I was 100 pages in.
Really?
I thought, wow, well, maybe you weren't reading all that carefully. But I did not want to write a book that spelled out precisely how we got into that position. Yeah. Because then it would have been a different kind of book. It's very easy to imagine the world sliding into this kind of dysfunction. Yeah. Maybe dysfunctional is a better word than dystopian for what's happened here. Yeah. It's quite possible to imagine a world in which 16 families own pretty much everything, in which climate change has continued apace and is making some changes in our daily lives. Mm-hmm. I remember the day that I found out that the bottom of Lake Superior rests at about a comfortable 38 degrees. Okay. And that the human body begins to create gas and to rise at 39 degrees.
Oh, that was one of my questions. Was did you make up this business of the bodies floating to the surface?
I did not make that up. It's just that I happened to think of it, and to realize that at least in theory, that is something that could happen if the lake rises one more degree at the bottom. Will it happen? I have no idea. Yeah. Maybe it'll get to 40, 41, 42 degrees, and that still won't happen. Mm-hmm. I hope it doesn't happen. Yeah. But if you think of that, and you're a novelist, there's something the matter with you if you don't use it.
Yeah. Well, so I guess for people who are listening who haven't read the book yet, I'm sure they'll go out and read the book, get the book immediately. This podcast is going to put you on the map, Leif.
I've been waiting for something.
But yeah, there are as the lake warms, bodies are floating. But what was so interesting that I wouldn't have, I guess I would have eventually thought of it, but it was so interesting to me is that it was bodies from every era of Lake Superior's life, and so there would be First Peoples floating up, and there would be fur trappers floating up, and there'd be people who
voyageurs, priests, the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about
that.
The
book doesn't really get sidetracked with that. It's more of a background. It's just part of what is now accepted. Yeah. This is going to happen.
Well, that idea there that things are just a little off and people accept it, which is the way human beings do anyway.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Things are off now.
Yeah.
In a different way than they were off a generation ago, and we just get used to it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that is certainly a fact that the book takes advantage of, is that we adjust, and sometimes for the better. And other times we adjust for things that we shouldn't, you know? And I think that in Rainey's world, people have maybe adjusted a little too easily to things like indentured servitude, to things like, you know, chemical control of parts of the population.
Yeah.
And all of these are things that don't seem impossible. In fact, they don't really seem unlikely. One thing I really wanted to do with this story was to write something that is optimistic in spite of the darkness. Because I think I have grandchildren now, and that has changed the way I look at the future. It's changed the way I think about what what are these kids going to need? What are they not going to be able to take for granted that I did? And so I couldn't just write a story that is nothing but discouraging.
Yeah.
I had to write something that had a sense of optimism, or at least a route to optimism. Hope comes before optimism, I think.
I was going to ask you if you were using optimism and hope as synonyms.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, optimism can be derailed. Optimism depends on, a plan going right. Hope says, well, maybe the plan's going to go wrong, but we'll get through. So I think that's a more reliable impulse.
Hope comes before optimism. I'm still not sure I know what you're saying here.
Well, maybe I'm using the words wrongly, but it feels to me like what optimism is making a plan or having an idea that will get you out of a bad situation and into a better one. What hope does is it says, my plan may not work.
Yeah.
Things might get real bad.
Yeah.
But if so, I will get through it. That seems to me a little bit different, a little more, a little closer to the bone than optimism is.
Yeah. Okay. One thing that is really interesting to me about the way things work in the world of this book is the idea that the ways that the authoritarian impulse, let's say, in this world separates people from reality, from cause and effect, from a situation in which human will feels like it matters, or any will besides, as you said, the 16 families, the so-called astronauts,
Right.
who are so detached from the concrete facts of Middle America, or
yeah, they're living in their own world.
Yeah, and creating a world in which the people who live in that, in the other, not even 99% is 99.99%.
Yeah.
You mentioned chemical control, the compliance drugs,
Right.
and the what I'm getting at, I'm sorry, a world in which people are separated from reality in so many ways, and it is bookishness in many ways that brings people back to reality, right? This is a world in which illiteracy is one way that compliance can be enforced.
Yeah.
That's not a question, obviously, but it might get you started talking.
Well, I think that in many ways our future depends on literacy. I really think it does, because if you read and you read widely, then some things happen to you. Your world expands, your horizon widens. You begin to understand how someone else that doesn't live inside your own skull might think about things. There's a scene early in the story where Rainey, the narrator, recounts when he was a young man and he goes into the library, not to check out a book because he's not really a reader, but he goes to the library because he needs a warm place to sit down and eat his lunch. and he does that. He takes he kind of hides in a study carrel.
Yeah.
And he hears the voice of a librarian at the help desk, and she is pointing people toward what they need.
Yeah.
And he begins to fall in love with this voice. I love that idea of that it's possible to fall in love with someone that you can't even see.
It's like falling in love with Siri.
Well, not exactly, but yeah, I see where you're going. But what that encounter does, because what Rainey does then is he realizes he's falling for this girl, but she is obviously very literate, because she is, she's recommending history for the ambitious and poetry for the heartbroken and so on, and he thinks, if I'm ever going to have a chance with this girl, I better do some reading.
Yeah.
So he starts making notes, and everything she recommends to other people, he's just eavesdropping, and he writes it all down, and he goes to the into the shelves and the stacks, and he gets the books, and he starts to read. And what happens is that his capacity for love is activated, his empathy is strengthened, and he becomes the kind of person who, for example, is open-hearted enough to offer a room to a stranger at his own risk. Yeah. If not for that scene in the library, none of the rest of the book could happen, because he becomes a different person because of the books he is reading. And I loved that. That was the first thing I thought about when I thought of this book, is that scene. And that was the first thing I wrote. It was a delight to work on. And it's the only section that I didn't have to do really any rewriting on, because it just came in full.
That's great. I don't remember. Could he read? He just wasn't much of a reader. He didn't learn to read in the library.
He could read, but it wasn't important to him. He never did it. The way he puts it is, my parents were ahead of their time. They had no use for reading.
Yeah. But you're talking about a world in which people are literally illiterate. I mean, there's a lot of people who literally can't read. Literally cannot read,
and aren't encouraged to. People are much easier to control if they cannot read. That's clearly established. And it's not that I think that we're in danger of mass illiteracy. There's so much literature out there, and I'm so grateful that there is. But we are in an age when a lot of books are challenged, are banned in certain areas, and I think that is a dangerous proposition. I think books need to be available. I think people who read need to be valued and listened to. And Lark, who is the librarian with the beautiful voice, is not in the whole book, but she is the presiding spirit of this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we talk about sailing literature for a minute?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I figured you'd want to talk about that.
Yeah, of course.
I love that this is a book about sailing. And there's such a great tradition of sailing literature. And I think one of the things I was thinking about a lot as I was reading this book is the value of just solving physical problems.
Yeah.
In storytelling.
Yes. Yeah.
Just what are we going to do if this storm rolls in? Well, I've got to. I can understand the sailing language. I can't use the sailing language.
How do you heave to? I mean, if you're in a terrible storm,
that's right. Yeah, you explain
what in the world do you do?
Yeah.
Or throwing a sea anchor over the side.
Yeah.
There are sailing literature. Boy, how I love it. I remember being 12 or 13 and reading The Sea Wolf for the first time, Jack London's great novel. And I just remember thinking, now we're on to something.
Yeah.
Such a lovely story and so beautifully told. There's such a great tradition. Look, Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote better seagoing novels. They don't generally just take place only at sea, but the sea is always present in his books. You can hear the surf booming off to the side. In fact, I really borrowed heavily from Stevenson's Treasure Island when I was thinking, how do I begin? How do I begin this story? How can I introduce the danger? And I went back to Treasure Island and looked at how he brought that old pirate in.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens is this pirate shows up at the doorstep of Jim Hawkins's inn, where he lives with his mom, and this guy needs a room, and they give him a room. Now, he is a pain, and he drinks all the time, and he makes a big fuss, and he cusses everybody out, and he makes himself a terrible nuisance. But they give him shelter, and then people come looking for him. Of course they do. He's a pirate. People are going to come looking for him. He's got something they want, and then all hell breaks loose after that. And so I just thought, well, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do.
I did not make that connection. That is so good.
The difference is that Stevenson draws that story along for only a few pages. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, Blind Pew is knocking at the door, and then all the pirates are there, and it's like Jim Hawkins is running away, and that all happens in the space of a very few pages. I wanted Kellen, our stranger, I wanted him to be a more benign presence than the old pirate. I wanted him to be likable. I wanted Rainey to form an attachment to him, which he does. Yeah. He begins to think of him as a younger brother.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson from another terrific writer, Stephen King, who basically says, what I like to do is really let my characters have a wonderful life for 150, maybe 200 pages, and then I throw them into just terrible circumstances and see how they respond. Well, I didn't give them quite 200 pages because my books are shorter than Stephen's. But that I thought was good advice.
Yeah.
Let's let this story unspool in kind of a benign way for a while. Let's let the attachment form, and then let's bring the storm on.
Yeah. Yeah, that storm comes in earnest. To return to the idea of sailing books and physical problems, I mean, again, literal, physical atmosphere, things like that.
Yes.
I love the way it's so obvious in your stories, especially this story more than the others, that yes, the inner life, the character's inner life is what's really driving things.
Yeah.
And yet there's so much value just in somebody solving a physical problem.
And there's so much joy in writing about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a pleasure. And I think partly I didn't really do that on purpose, but they are, as Rainey describes them, early abandoners of digital technology.
Yeah.
And there is such an ability to do so much of your life digitally now. And, not to sound like a curmudgeon, but there's also a value in putting your hands on something and fixing a problem in your house or mowing your grass. Yeah. Figuring out what the physical solution is to a problem that has plagued you. Oh, there's real pleasure in that. And so to be able to write about a sort of post-digital lifestyle, I've got to admit, if dystopia comes upon us like that, I'm kind of up for it.
Well, I always say the first question, when you're writing a book, the first question is, why don't people have cell phones?
Yeah.
It's either you set it in the past or you put them in a place where their cell phone doesn't work because it's so easy to solve problems when you have a cell phone. But you solved it by setting it far enough in the future that our people and the GPS satellites have been shot down, or
for the most part. That actually was something I remember reading about in 2016 or 17. That there had been a series of solar flares that had knocked out a lot of GPS satellites all over the world. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I did a little bit more research and realized that a major solar flare, one that wouldn't, disrupt our physical lives on Earth, could easily disrupt communication satellites and just render them useless. And so it just struck me as something that I could use. And indeed, it is really nice not to have to worry about the whole cell phone issue.
Yeah.
I don't like writing about cell phones. I mean, it's just, I'm grateful to have one.
Yeah.
But it feels superfluous in a way. Now, I say that having, Ubered all over the place in the last few days in different cities on a book tour. And what would I do without it? I guess I had to hail a taxi. But I value a lot of things about this digital economy we live in. I won't lie. That would be hypocritical of me. And yet there is this yearning I have for the simplicity of a future screwed up world.
And you're probably not going to write a story about Ubering around.
No, I'm not.
Maybe you will. People could. People write good stories that involve cell phones. But
and actually I have met a lot of pretty cool Uber drivers over the last few days. They're interesting people.
Yeah.
And they always have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Taxi drivers the same way. Who's more fun to listen to than a taxi driver? They always have great ideas.
Yeah, not podcasters. They're not much in. All right. Oh, okay. I've got a question for you. Why is Rainey a bass player instead of, say, a guitar player?
Well, he plays bass because I play bass.
Okay.
And I played bass in a church band for 15 years.
Really?
And I had never touched a bass before that. But my brother-in-law, when he took a church near us, a terrific guitar player, and he really wanted to have a good tight little group up there. And he asked me if I would learn bass, which I was happy to do. I'd been learning a little guitar. I wasn't very good, but I understood how the fretboard worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I took some bass lessons from him, and I really enjoyed it. And partly because you don't have to be, Johann Sebastian anybody to play bass. You play one note at a time, and you lock in with the drummer.
Yeah.
You keep it simple. The first advice he gave me was, first do no harm, which I loved.
Yeah.
He just took the Hippocratic Oath and described bass playing with it. Described actually doing almost anything. First do no harm.
Yeah.
And it was then easy to write about that, because what Rainey understands, I think, better than I did, is that your job is to build a foundation for the song. The rhythm guitar and the lead guitar, the keyboards, whatever else you've got, your vocalists, they're going to do this, the part of the song that everyone notices and hears. Mm-hmm. But you, as the almost unheard bass player, have a part in creating the very foundation without which the song can't stand. You got to have a bass player.
Yeah.
At least I think you do. I know that there are groups that don't have bass players. I like a bass player because the song feels full. It feels whole. And I loved playing bass in that church band. It was a great thing.
Yeah.
And I began to understand that beyond just the foundation, you could also help steer the mood of the song by the lines you chose to play. And so Rainey understands that from the outset, and I love that about him. It was fun to write about someone who isn't really he's not the face of the group. I mean, he's foundational.
Yeah.
And that was important to me.
And the lark's job is to carry the melody.
Yeah.
Right. We have lark is such a in a really sweet way, not in a self-absorbed way, but she's the
lark.
She's the melody, and he's back there keeping it thumping.
I think you're exactly right. I hadn't thought of it that way before, but you're right. Lark is...
She's the songbird.
She is the songbird, and she provides the beauty in his life.
Yeah.
Lark and her books and her generosity and her characterization of the two of them as quixotes, which means a person who is not always sensible, someone who is willing to take a chance once in a while on someone who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a bad price to pay for being a Quixote. But also your life is larger if you are.
Yeah. Yeah, she's their courage, it seems to me, grows out of the fact that they aren't quite sensible. The sensible thing to do,
yeah, you're right, John,
is to not be so courageous as these people are.
I think you're exactly right. And it's just for them as simple as seeing a need that's in front of them and trying to answer it. And they can't always.
Yeah.
And they don't make all the right decisions.
Yeah.
And they have their own flaws and they screw things up like all of us do. But I love that courage that they have that you're talking about. I love that. I admire it. I aspire to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I may be too sensible to be as courageous as those.
Yeah, me
these
too. I'm right there
characters
with you.
Yeah. I was so interested and I appreciated you addressing that sad, sad ending of Don Quixote, where he gets his sense back.
Right?
And it's so sad.
I mean, I felt like Rainey. I wish I hadn't finished.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Look, if he's not that guy tilting at windmills, who reads that 1,000-page book?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I read it for the tilting at windmills.
Yeah.
And then at the end, oh man, it's just church people and lawyers. Got to get that will notarized. Oh, what a terrible ending.
One thought I had is that you might have done the world a disservice by telling how Don Quixote ends, because most people don't know. Most people don't make it to the end.
You're right.
We're all happy as we can be.
Oh, that's very funny. Yeah, I regret it now.
Yeah.
Now that you've said that, I really screwed this up. Oh, that is funny. But I've talked with quite a few other people who have said similar things. It's just like, oh yeah, I hated that ending too.
Yeah. It seems like have you seen the musical, the Man from La Mancha?
Not in many years.
Yeah. I think it ends differently. I think it ends.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
There's okay, this is going to be a very fruitful conversation that neither of us can remember how it ends. Okay. Yeah, one more thing about the bass.
Yeah.
It's an instrument that you feel in your chest. You feel it in your body. I mean, you feel everything else in your body too, but you're really aware that you're feeling it in your body.
That's right, it
with
resonates.
the bass and the drum.
Yeah.
And it's that place where we're aware that the imaginative and the world of ideas intersects with the bodily as well.
Yeah.
And I loved the idea that this guy was a bass player.
Well, I'm glad. It was I wanted Rainey's whole personality to have that kind of resonance. I wanted him to be a bass note, a bass line throughout the story, and I'm glad if it seemed that way to you.
Yeah.
I wanted him to have a mythic resonance and to feel like he was someone that had been dug up out of an old story.
Yeah.
That's what I was absolutely going for. When you are on to something, and you're starting to sort of dig up the bones of a story, what you really hope is that you're going to stumble onto Stonehenge. That's what you want. You want it to be something that feels old and new at the same time.
Stonehenge feels new.
Oh, every time I see it.
I've never seen it.
Well, I've never been to it.
Oh.
I read about it. And Stonehenge feels like one of those things that's old and new and future. Sometimes I can't get Stonehenge out of my imagination.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Stonehenge is a bass line. That's deep notes there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, 4 years ago when we talked on the podcast, you told me some writers who make you want to write. You may have the same. You may be telling me the same ones again. But who are the people who are getting you going right now?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked. I'm reading a really good one right now. It's a brand new book. It just came out.
Yeah.
It's called James. It's by Percival Everett.
Okay.
And it's a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the point of view of the slave. And it is so well done. I have never read Percival Everett before. I didn't know about him.
Mm-hmm.
And then this book was published a week or two ago, and it's a huge buzz book. And when I first heard about it, I had some resistance because I thought, well, okay, so Barbara Kingsolver revisioned David Copperfield last year. Now we have a revisioning of Huckleberry Finn. Is this going to be a thing now? And I felt a little resistance. But I started reading James, and it is so incredibly well done. It's got humor. It has all the familiar characters. If you know Huckleberry Finn very well, you're going to feel very comfortable in this. But it has that added advantage of being from a totally different perspective, a perspective that was, I think, needed. One of those books I didn't know I needed until I started reading it. And now I'll never be able to think of Huckleberry without this other side of the story. It's lovely. It is such a good book.
First person from...
Yeah, first person from Jim's point of view. I think it's an absolutely special novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that I knew about this book, I knew it was called James. I knew it was a retelling of Huck Finn. It's striking that I didn't figure out that this is Jim.
Yeah.
You think of Jim as, the dignity of the word, the name James compared to Jim.
Yeah, and the title is a good metaphor. For the whole book. It's lovely. You should read it.
I will.
Yeah, it's awfully good. Plus, he does a thing I always admire about certain writers, which is he clearly has the literary chops to dazzle you with his prose, but he never allows his artistry to interfere with the momentum of the story. So it moves quickly, just like Huck Finn. Yeah. It just moves fast. And every time a character shows up when like the King and the Duke show up, and it's like, okay, here come the King and the Duke. So you already kind of know what's coming, but Jim always has a different way of looking at it. It's very, it's just terrific. I'm enjoying it so much. I'm probably going to finish it tonight in the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one. I also have discovered a writer that other people have known about for many decades, but who is new to me, and her name was Tove Jansson.
Okay.
And she was she lived in the Finnish archipelago, and wrote mostly children's books about characters called the Moomin Trolls. Those weren't part of my childhood, but I guess that they are popular, the Moomin Troll books. But I've been reading her adult novels. There's one called The Summer Book, and it's just recollections of many summers spent on an island in the Finnish archipelago between a girl and her grandmother. And as they both age through the years, you see the progression of their character. They have real problems to solve. You understand the importance of imagination and whimsy and honesty and arguments, and they're absolutely captivating. I couldn't put the book down. The Summer Book by Tove Jansson.
Okay.
She makes me want to write.
Yeah.
Those are the two right now that I'm just captivated by. Yeah.
Well, as I was reading I Cheerfully Refuse, I kept thinking, it feels so much like Charles Portis.
Oh, that's a huge compliment.
Well, I remember, and I put it together, as I was reading, 4 years ago when we talked, Charles Portis was one of the people we talked about as somebody who was important to you.
Absolutely.
And I was like, well, I can see how Charles Portis was important to you.
He had this ability to hone down his dialogue in particular to very few words that said so much. And, brevity is the soul of wit. And Portis was the funniest writer of his day.
Oh, my goodness.
I just adore his books, and I go back to them almost every year.
Yeah.
And give them another read. Yeah, I love Charles.
And he dated Nora Ephron for a while.
Charles Portis did?
Yes.
Nora Oh my gosh!
Can you believe that?
Oh man, what would you give, Jonathan, to be a fly on that wall? Just to listen to those two converse.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been something else, because they were both also brilliant in conversation. You read transcripts of interviews with either of them, and it's like, oh, these people had wit. These people were boiling over with wit. Yeah. I'm so glad you told me that.
Yeah, I'm glad to help.
I'm not going to be able to think about anything else now for a while.
Now I've got to go Google and make sure I didn't make that up.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, Leif, thank you so much. This has been so fun.
What a pleasure. Thank you for having me in, Jonathan.
Next time you write a book, why don't you come over and we'll talk about it?
Absolutely.
Great.
All right.
The Habit Podcast is brought to you by The Rabbit Room, where art nourishes community and community nourishes art. You can support their work, including this podcast, by becoming a member. Visit rabbitroom.com/membership. Special thanks as well to Taylor Leonard for letting us use her song Diamonds as the theme music for the Habit Podcast. You can learn more about Taylor and follow her work at taylorleonard.com. The Habit Membership is a library of resources for writers by me, Jonathan Rogers. More importantly, The Habit is a hub of community where like-minded writers gather to discuss their work and give each other a little more courage. Find out more at thehabit.co.